first,
Okay, go ahead, sorry.
okay, sure. This little bill is likely to be one of the most interesting ones you'll hear during the entire session.
I don't know, I've heard some interesting deals.
This is really interesting.
Go ahead.
What if we could figure out a way to take energy that had been stored by vehicles in their batteries, that had been plugged into the grid all night, and then during the day feed back a little bit of that energy to help modulate the frequencies of the grid, make the grid be more efficient, and actually provide the consumers with a little bit of economic benefit in the process? Well, that's what this bill does. This is called a vehicle-to-grid bill, and it is in the net metering section of the code, but ladies and gentlemen, it really is not net metering the way, in the classical sense of net metering that we think of. The classical sense of net metering is, you think of a solar array, and it's generating power. That's not what this bill is about. Because the battery itself does not generate the power. The power is coming from the grid into the battery, which fills up the battery at night, or fills up the battery when it's not being used. And when the battery uses its energy, and anything left over can be plugged back into the grid to feed a little bit back onto the grid. So we call this energy balancing, not net metering. And we have some folks here to testify to what they're doing in Delaware, which has been doing this for now 2 years. And it creates the opportunity to do some things in Virginia that will create more jobs for folks in this state.
Okay.
So with that,
You have somebody here?
I've got some folks here.
Okay,
All
all right.
Gentleman come down from Delaware today to tell us how it works in Delaware, and to give you some sense of how it could work here.
All right. Thank you. Welcome. Yes, welcome. Yes, sir.
Thank you, and I'd just like for the record to note that I grew up in Virginia and I'm a graduate of the University of Virginia. So I'm in Delaware now, but I'm still Virginia.
They had a good game last night.
Great game.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I digress.
Would you like an initial statement? Okay. So this bill is to allow the trading back and forth of energy stored in a battery behind a meter, either in a basement, a warehouse, or an electric vehicle. The need for this is to...
Can you describe behind the metering?
Sure, sorry, thank you.
I probably know what it is.
In other words, a house or a business that's buying electricity from the local electric utility, and a meter that measures that.
Okay.
And if I put a battery in my residence or in a car in my driveway, when I charge that car, I'm paying the local utility for that electricity. And I can just do that, drive the car, come back, charge it again, and I'm just getting paid. I'm fairly paying for all the electricity I use. There's no problem with that. The technology that we're trying to advance and have been using in Delaware sometimes put some of that electricity back on the grid when there's a shortage on the grid. The grid operator, PJM, will pay for that. There's a value to it. It makes the grid more stable and reliable. It keeps the lights steady rather than flickering like it does in some third world countries. And it's a very efficient, low-cost way to do it. What we have done in Delaware is pass a law that says customers providing that service, they have to bring electricity in to charge the battery. When they put the electricity back out for the benefit of the grid, they get the same rate that they paid putting it in. So you're not, without that law, the way the law is in Virginia now and the way it was in Delaware 3 years ago, you bring it in and you pay. When you put it out, you get nothing. Later you bring it in and you pay. So the problem is you're giving away free electricity to the local utility, and you can't run a business that way. The payments that you get for providing that service, although valuable, are not big enough to overcome the cost of giving away free electricity through your meter to the local utility.
Thanks.
So the purpose of this bill is to allow that two-way flow, which benefits the grid and lowers the cost for everyone, makes the grid more reliable, But you still have to pay because you're still taking in more than you're putting out. There's no subsidy.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Can I ask two questions? All right, so doesn't it take some kind of something to count the electricity that you're going back to the electrical company? Doesn't
Yes,
that have
it does.
some cost?
Yes.
What does that cost? Who pays for that?
If I could, Delegate Toscano reminded me I did not introduce myself. My name is Willett Kempton. I'm a professor at the University of Delaware, and I operate our electric vehicles in the GRID project. So to the question of the cost of metering,
Right, I mean, in other words, you plug it in, you get your electricity, you pay for that. Everybody understands that,
Yes.
so like the phone right now.
Yes.
Okay. But what you're saying is, once I'm fully charged, then it goes, somehow or another, someone has got to figure out how much you're sending back.
yes.
And then, so how does that, who pays for that?
Okay. If there's any additional metering required, which there would be in some cases and not in others, the customer who's doing it bears that cost. So that's not a cost to other ratepayers, it's not a cost to the utility. As the bill is written, that's a cost to the person who wants to provide this service.
Okay.
Yes, Delegate Klein.
Just to improve my understanding, if you charge up at one price at one location, go to another place, charge up at a different price, maybe you don't, I'm thinking of it in terms of gas, you don't fill up your tank. How do you rectify what price you paid when you put it back onto the grid?
Boy, that's a sophisticated question.
No one's ever said that.
Generally, you're at home and you're charging and discharging in the same place, but definitely the situation you described could occur, and that would just be the tariff of the location where you do the charging or discharging. So, I mean, maybe you could game that in some way, but it's not going to be that big of a difference. The biggest difference is if you have to pay to take it in, and you have to give it away for free when you put it back on the grid. That's the really big differential.
Do you have any other testimony or one of the other gentlemen?
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm David Slutsky with Fermata Energy, which is a Virginia-based company. We're trying to commercialize the good work that Professor Kempton has done over the last few years. And we actually requested delegates to kind of bring this bill forward because we want to commercialize vehicle grid in Virginia. Delegate Byron and Delegate Marshall have been supportive of us putting a pilot project in Danville, Virginia that should be operational within the next few months. But ironically,
How's that pilot project going?
well, we're excited about how much progress we've made. I'm sure you don't want a full report right now, but I would be thrilled to share it with you at any time. The difference you're counting, the quick answer though is we're asking for this because for our project to become commercialized at scale as we would like it to be as quickly as possible, we would lose money doing vehicle to grid in Virginia. We could make money in Delaware because they've already made this minor legislative tweak to enable the cost to go in both directions and not just one. So whereas a vehicle in Delaware might be plugged in and make about $150 a month from frequency regulation services, and the electric meter part of it with the utility kind of would cancel out, here in Virginia, we would end up losing $75 for that same effort because we couldn't recapture the cost, or we wouldn't be able to recapture the cost of the electrons that we took when we took them because we couldn't get paid when we gave them back.
So do you think, do you believe that you could establish a business and actually make money in Virginia if 2373 were, if we passed 2373?
We're very, thank you for the question, we're very confident of the commercial opportunity here, and now that vehicle to grid technology has been proven out over the last few years from this pilot project in Delaware and another project being done in military project out west, we think it's right for commercialization. We just need the opportunity to do it, and that's what we're going to be doing in Virginia.
Delegate Marshall.
Yes, thank you, David. So explain to the group that when you take it, and then when you give electricity back. So you're going to give it back during when they have peak times.
Not exactly. So there are a number of markets where energy storage in an electric vehicle battery can work with the grid. What we're focusing on in Virginia right now on this project in Danville is what's called frequency regulation. And that's simply where, if 1,000 customers turn on their HVAC at one time, the utilities have to crank up their output of electrons, and it's a disaster. So they look for places to get electrons from very quickly. Electric vehicle batteries are a great resource for those electrons to come from. The reciprocal is also true where the utility needs to give electrons away that they've got that are extra. Electric vehicle battery can take them. So we're going to bid into the frequency regulation market in the PJM, that's the grid operator in this part of the country, and will be paid by them to be available for this up and down service. They're not going to take very many electrons, but they'll take them quickly, and they won't give many electrons, but they'll give them quickly.
So the answer is yes.
Thank you.
Okay, you lost me on electrons.
But I think his question was, is it peak, and it's likely to be on the peak.
It'll be throughout the course of the day. We could do it in peak, but we can also do it moment to moment, and that is actually more valuable. It's 24/7, and it's valuable to the grid and therefore in turn to the utilities to be able to have a rapid response resource like an electric battery to take electrons from or to dump them into when they need to. That's what the frequency regulation markets are for. The advantage to ratepayers with an electric vehicle that's kind of special is that unlike a big bank of batteries or a utility peaker plant, is the cost of the batteries is largely covered by the logistics function of the vehicle. So it ends up making a business like ours able to lower the cost of regulation services in that market, which benefits the ratepayers.
All right. Thank you, sir. All right. Anybody in the audience against or neutral or concerned or whatever?
Mr. Chairman, Bill Murray from Dominion, and let me first disclose a bias. You'd be shocked to hear that electric utilities in the abstract and in general really like electric vehicles. We're very much for electric vehicles. This is, as has been said in testimony, a very new and, if not out of the box idea, certainly a very innovative idea. Having said that, it's a challenging short session issue because it is a new way of thinking about what we do with net metering or whatever. I'm using net metering in the generic sense. I realize the bill uses a different term. Because that's typically been, you generate and we pay you for what you generate at some level depending on your size. And the way this is working, in essence, you're being a battery on behalf of the utility. You're taking the utility's energy, storing it for the utility, and selling it back to the utility at a later time. Because I have to admit that utilities are not always the quickest to move on new policy ideas, and reliability is our overwhelming concern. We would be very interested in trying to work with Doug Toscano and his supporters over the year to try to figure this, how to make this implementable.
I've got a question of Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir. Then tell me then, what's the difference in how the Dominion Power and the rest of them do theirs now when they do something that is not, if this is energetic, invigorating, all this kind of stuff, and because now a new idea starts like you, tell me what's the difference in the other company that would do something and we sit here together a lot the same, but they can put some on and be great for the customer and pass it on. It is women and it's new. And it's new, and we buy it because the other energy companies say so. What's different than what this is trying to do? You have not said the one thing is that what's wrong with it. Are you saying it's new? We want to work it out, work with them. Why?
Well, Doug Sproul, I guess the concern or the issue would be there's times when having power coming back to you is very valuable. At a peak, if you're short of power and you'd otherwise be buying on the market, there's other times on a 70-degree day where you've got plenty of your own power and additional power, just particular power that you don't control or don't have a formal sort of agreement for, and all of this can be worked through, is not necessarily help to the grid. It's something that you've got to balance. The grid's got to be precisely balanced moment to moment between demand and supply. We're a little bigger utility than the Delaware utilities, so just our scale of trying to keep the system going is a little different. And as I said, we find this a very interesting idea, particularly given its applicability to if someone figured out very economical solar storage. We're not there yet in terms of the language of the bill and how to implement this because we're a little differently situated from Delaware. We've got example from one state for 2 years, and the utility business model's been around for about 100 years,
Mr. Chairman.
and is not the fastest to evolve, and that's our fault.
Mr. Chairman, all I'm trying to find out is that when we have a problem during the peak time, during the summertime with the Appalachian Power and Dominion Power, and they says they put the stuff online during the peak time. They add, take away, put something on the side because they know about